Hi everyone, this is Sharon. I am here with you today to share my February design team project for Louisa Heinzel. And what I did this month was something a little different. It's a project I've been wanting to make for quite some time, and it's an ephemera holder for all of my stickers and labels. And I've seen a number of people make these, and I thought I'm going to give it a try too, because my labels and stickers were very unorganized before this. So what I did was I used, Louisa has a number of new kits out. They're called The Day After Valentine's. And she's got junk journal pages, ephemera pack, journal backgrounds, lined journal pages. And then she's got a regular, colorful, more vibrant version of these. And then she also has a vintage edition of some of these kits. And since I'm always going for vintage, that's what I chose. I used the vintage edition for the journal pages and then just the regular for the lined journal pages and incorporated those into this project. So to start out with, I just want to say I am so tickled pink and proud of myself for picking a book that was the exact perfect size that I needed. Usually when I pick them, the spines are too narrow and they end up like this in the end, but this one is sitting nice and flat. I've got everything fully loaded in here and it's just the perfect size. It's rather large. I think it's 9 by about 5 3/4. And then it's got a pretty thick spine, I would say about 2 3/4, close to 3 inches maybe. It's got this beautiful spine. I didn't want to do anything to that. It's called the Bedside Esquire. Doesn't that sound fascinating? And then it's got this turquoise book cloth on the back. And so the front, I just took one of the journal pages and from the kit and covered that. And then I layered that up with some French script and a piece of linen that I also used for the inside binding. And then I put a button on there. And this is a strip of paper from the title page of this book. So that's what I did for the outside cover. I also, what I did was put in 8 signatures, and they're each one single thickness of cardstock. And then I created pockets on those. And then I also created a hollow back spine just so that when it's open, it lays, nice and flat and you can see what's in there. So as I said, I've got this fully loaded right now, and what I want to do is I'm going to pause my camera, take everything out, and then I'll be able to go through the construction more easily with everything out of it. Okay, I am back and she is emptied out. And let me just start out by saying that was very painful, removing those hundreds of stickers, but necessary. I wanted to load it up initially so I could really plan things out and see how far apart to put my signatures and do the construction in a way that fit my needs. But I also knew that I would need to clean it out in order to show you the construction a little bit better. So as we head inside, just to talk a little bit about how I put this together. It is an ephemera holder, but I actually created it like I would most of my journals when I reuse a hardcover book cover. So what I did was I sewed my signatures to a piece of cloth. This is like a light turquoise linen fabric. And I gave that some extra support in the back with cardstock, especially with an open hollow back spine. It just gives a little bit more heft and doesn't wrinkle up so much when you have the book open and closed. So that is the spine. The other thing related to sewing in the signatures, usually I have my strings and my knots on the inside, but I didn't want any of that to interfere or contend with all the things that I would have stuffed into my pockets. So I actually stitched it in reverse so that my knots were underneath this fabric piece here. And then that whole section I glued just on the ends to the book covers and then left the inside open. And then on the inside covers, I put a piece of old French script because I really love that and I wanted to make this whole thing as pretty as possible, even though it's a practical piece. And then on the back, I did the same. Going inside, as I mentioned earlier, each signature is made with, you know, one single sheet. It is on cardstock. Because the height of this book is higher or wider than my 8.5 by 11 paper, I had to print each of these on a separate sheet of paper and then glue them together. And so what I did was, this side of the page, I made 2 sides of how I wanted it. And then this side, I actually extended or cut it about 5/8 of an inch wider. And then I took that piece and wrapped it around the other one and then glued it here and stitched it together. So that connected these 2 pieces. The other thing I did with the signatures is I did stitch around the entire perimeter and down the center so that I would catch the sides of all the pockets, the inside and the outside. Figuring out how to put these pockets in took a little bit of thinking because I tried a couple different tests with glue along the bottom edges of these pockets. And even though I think they would have held, with a little bit of tugging, I was able to pull them apart. And so I tried thinking, what could I do to make these a little bit stronger across the bottom and to hide the glue. I don't like to see the glue in there either. So what I did was I took offcuts from when I cut these pages down and actually took that strip of cardstock and put it along the bottom of each pocket. And that way you've got paper to paper and you can glue it on really nice and tight and it's not going to go anywhere. And I didn't have to worry about it on the sides because those are stitched, and then the pockets along the bottoms of the pages too, those are stitched in, so I really didn't have to worry about that either. So it would be any pockets that were up higher on the page. What else do I want to talk about? What I did was, with the Louisa's kits, her pages are just beautiful. They're a mixture of birds and flowers and some interesting backgrounds. And for all the signatures except for the first one, I put her journal pages on this side of the signature, and then I coordinated those with some other kits that I had that were more of like almost wallpaper or background type pages, and they just really paired up nicely to give a little bit of contrast throughout the book. And the only difference that I did on the first one was I flipped that around because I wanted this really pretty iris and owl on the front page. So that's where I led off with that one, and that's why I have these two across from each other. And then from there on out, it's going to be the background sheet mixed with her journal pages. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was this, the pockets, and you can probably see they're shiny, clear and shiny. I made these out of the old-fashioned transparency film that you used to put in your overhead projectors. And I had a box here. I believe I just picked them up at a local thrift shop. So I've got a supply of those, and those worked pretty well. They're nice and strong, but you can see through them really easily. I'll just step through so you can see all of the pages and the... It's fun putting something together like this that you make both pretty and utilitarian, because I'll be digging in here a lot. So you want it to look nice. And then on some of the pages where I had a lot of narrow pockets, I thought it might get too bulky to have all these cardstock strips along in here. So I actually used washi on the bottom of those pockets, and they're narrow ones. So again, you know, not going to get a whole lot of wear and tear, but that's just another good way to ensure you have good adhesion at the bottom of the pocket. Something a little bit different, but it works well. Plus I get to use up some of my washi. And as you can see, I used, you know, lots of different sized pockets throughout to fit what I had. And then on some of the pages like this one, I did a stitch down the middle too, so that for the smaller pieces, you can keep them in smaller pockets. It was really fun pairing all the decorative papers with Louisa's kit. The other thing that I really like about this kit is it's got such a variety of birds and such a variety of colors. So they're really pretty blues and greens. And those are paired with some pretty pinks and reds and oranges. And like I said, I did 8 signatures, so it's not too hefty. It's fairly lightweight, but I can really get a lot in here. And this is a lot of narrow ones on that page again for all the teeny little tags and things that I have in labels. And then ended up with the flamingo. Okay, so I am going to pause this video one more time, and then I will be back with this all stuffed and full, so you can see actually how I am using it and how I filled all my pockets. Okay, back to do a flip through with everything filled and ready to go. So on this first inside cover, I've just created an envelope from one of the pages in the kit, and in there I tucked in a bunch of really teeny little labels that just didn't work well to stick in the pockets, and I clipped that there. And what I did when I put my signatures in is I left a little bit more room than I normally would on the front and back signatures, so that there is that little bit of extra room in here and then on the back as well to be able to clip in folios and envelopes and things. So if we look at the back cover also right away, here I clipped on this folio that I made again from some of the journal pages in the kit. Beautiful pictures. And then in here I just created some extra pockets. These were also, I think, portions of one of the journal pages. And then up on these pockets, these are actually part of the Ephemera kit. This one and this one. And here, these aren't actually labels or stickers. They're just, well, they are labels, I guess. They're just some small miscellaneous ephemera that I bought in a pack. A lot of little vellum pieces. So they were kind of an overflow, and I just stuck them in here. Okay, so flipping through, I will just go fairly quickly, but you can see in the larger pockets, I was able to, I did kind of plan it out. I laid everything out on a table and separated them into sizes, and that's mostly what I did is separated them by size, not necessarily by color. So they fit quite nicely in the pockets. And by no planning of mine, on a lot of the pages, the birds are just peeking out in between the pockets, which I think is kind of neat. I've got my butterfly section, more flowers. When you have them all organized like this and in pockets, you realize how much stuff you really have. And I know I'm going to be using these a lot more now that they're organized and I can actually see what I have. And here I just have a spare pocket, so I did leave a little bit of room here and there. I think I have a couple of extra pockets in here, yep. More flowers. And here I left a little bit of space as well. And then in this section, I put all of my labels. These are pretty much all Tracy Fox, I believe. And then lots of Tracy Fox labels in this section. Did not realize I had so many printed out until I started loading them in here. And I realized too that I'm going to have to use more brown. And then these are mostly, I think, Roxy Creations and some Tracy Fox. Some of my favorites there. And then in this last section, they're more, not so much of the floral stickers, but just a bunch of miscellaneous type ones that I had in a pack. That page, and then these. And then last page. So I have to say, really enjoyed making that project. My intention is to do something similar for my collection of stamps. So that one will be probably a little bit smaller, but on the same kind of construction. And so stay tuned for that. Hopefully in the next month or so, I'll be putting that one together. So until next time, bye-bye.